Hey y'all, it's week 12 of season 4 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Opie and His Merry Men. Why know what's up this week?
Opie and his friends are playing Robin Hood in the woods, and they come across some old guy sitting by a campfire. And they tell the guy what they're doing, but they also tell him that they don't know how the story of Robin Hood ends, because they weren't able to watch the end of the movie about Robin Hood on TV last night. And the guy says, "Oh, I know how that story ends, and I can tell y'all. But first, why don't you go get the lunch that you said you left back there in the woods and bring it here, and we can all have lunch together, and then I'll tell you the whole story of Robin Hood." And of course the old guy gets a free meal out of this deal.
Yeah, he told the boys he was poor because he's got an injured leg, because he can't work because he has an injured leg from when he rescued a baby off of train tracks right in front of a speeding train. And the baby was unhurt, but he got hit in the leg by the train.
Yeah, and when he finds out that Opie's tall as the sheriff, he makes Opie promise not to tell his daddy about him, so Andy won't come run him off. And at the supper table that night, Opie asks his tall whether they're rich or poor, and his tall says neither, really, although they're rich in many ways other than financially. And I'm eating with them that night, and I say, "You see, Olt, it ain't only the materialistic things in this world that make a person rich. There's love and friendship that can make a person rich." And then Opie asks his tall why sheriffs don't like poor folks, like the sheriff of Nottingham, because it's always chasing Robin Hood because he helped poor folks. And Andy said sheriffs just enforce the laws. They don't make them. And I say, "You see, Olt, ours is not the reason why. Ours is just to make out citations."
And then nobody wants dessert because they're all full from supper. Aunt Bee had made a fresh apple pie, but still no one wants it. So Opie goes out to play, and then you tell Andy that he and Opie really had the Robin Hood story all wrong.
And Andy says no, he didn't. In Robin Hood, the sheriff was fat and stupid, and he had a stupid deputy. And I say, now you're putting me on. You're trying to rile me, so you can see that vein on my neck stick out. You like that, don't you? And then Aunt Dee verifies what Andy said, and I yell, "Oh, what kind of book is that for kids to be reading? A book like that ought to be banned from the school. How are you going to teach kids respect for the law if they're going to read that kind of stuff?"
Meanwhile, the kids go back to that guy in the woods, and they bring him all this food that they took from their houses without permission. And Opie brought that apple pie that they didn't eat.
And then Andy and I in the courthouse start getting calls about missing food. And Aunt Dee says that apple pie is missing. And I say, "I think it's a fox." And Andy says no. And I say, "Well, what do you think it is? That fox thing was just a theory. What's your theory?" And Andy points out that all the houses with missing food are either Opie's or friends of Opie's. And I see Opie before Andy does, so I decide to get some information out of him while distracting him with a game of checkers. That Opie beats me at the game, and I forget about my questioning. And then Andy comes in and asks Opie directly about the missing food. And Opie comes clean about everything, including who they've been giving it to. And Andy tells me to go see who this guy is. And Opie says, "No, don't. Sheriffs are mean to poor people."
And then Andy says, "Stealing is wrong, Opie, no matter what, Robin Hood or no Robin Hood, and that you boys are too young to be taking the law into your own hands anyway." And Andy says, "We have social services and agencies that help poor people and help them find work."
And Opie says this guy can't work because he's got a dead leg. And so Andy and I and all the boys go down to meet this guy. And Andy offers him help in finding a job at the county employment agency, and the guy keeps saying no to every type of work that Andy suggests because of this dead leg. And I say, "That's a pretty sensitive leg you got there." And Andy implies to the guy that if he's not going to take any job, Andy's going to put him in jail. So the guy agrees to come find a job, but then as we're helping him tack up all his stuff, he runs off.
And Opie sees that there was nothing wrong with his leg after all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week for episode 13.